So we have here Green Light NOLA, which is a sustainability program where you could volunteer or get help with different projects. Hi, and welcome to ESL Level 3-4 with Delgado Adult Ed. This week is community action. We're going to use commas to connect two ideas as one. We'll use the present and the future tense to talk about if-then statements. And we'll talk about our community and how we can find help and give help in our community. So we have some vocabulary to start off with: community, organization, nonprofit, assistance, qualify for help, legal aid, food pantry, volunteer, interest, donate, fundraising, and philanthropist. They have the definitions for you here, so read them over, study, make some of your own sentences, and practice saying the words out loud. And we'll use some of these in our sentences in our story that we're going to read today. All right, so a complex sentence, as we talked about before, has a dependent clause and an independent clause. So it's two thoughts kind of connected together. And we use adverbs such as if, because, unless, before, after, or although to join these sentences. Again, if the adverb comes at the beginning of the sentence, you need a comma to separate the clause. And if it comes at the end of the sentence, you don't need the comma. That's explained here in this slide, so take some time to read it over to yourself, take some notes, and practice. Also, there's just a quick review of the future and the present tense, right? Okay, we will be using the verb to be, so make sure you're doing I am, you, we, they are, he, she, it is. And when you're using our regular verbs, pay attention to whether your verb needs an S at the end of the word or not, at the end of the verb. So I, you, we, and they, no S, he, she, and it, you need the S. That way you have proper subject-verb agreement. All right, future tense is like the easiest tense. You just shove the word will in front of your base verb. And so we're going to use these future and the present tense to talk about some resources and organizations in our communities and if-then sentences. So all the sentences here start with if something, then something else, right? So if Jack food, he to the big red box, right? You fill in the verbs there. I don't want to give you the answers yet. They're in the slides if you read through them. So we won't read each sentence here. So the first one is about a big red box food pantry location, and all of the resources in here are real resources that you can link through in your slides if you need that particular type of service, right? But read through the sentences and fill them in, right? Practice adjusting those verbs. We have Green Light New Orleans here. They help you with light bulbs and other sustainability programs. We have the application site for if you need help with your energy assistance and the chart that shows what your income must be to qualify, along with the sentence for you to fill in. We have some resources for people that are in between houses. We have Families Unidas, which I think a lot of students are members of, which is an organization to help immigrants adjust to life in New Orleans. We have NOLA COVID-19 Mutual Aid, which is an organization you can check out that tells you all the different resources that are available in the city. All right, so look at those resources, check them out, check out their websites to read more in English and practice your English and fill in these sentences, and we'll move on to the next part of our lesson. All right, so let's continue to use complex sentences with if-then statements and also some of our other adverbs in a short story, which I will read to you, and then there are questions after. You can also stop the video now and read this to yourself. All right, here we go. Jim goes on a journey. Jim lives in New Orleans. He has not been working much since the beginning of the pandemic, but that doesn't mean he hasn't been busy. He has a long list of errands to do today. Jim's to-do list. He needs to call Sewage and Water Board and Entergy to request assistance or payment plans for bills. He needs to take Jimmy Jr. to school to pick up a laptop. He needs to visit the eye doctor, get gas, volunteer with NOLA New Light. which is to go to 1026 Big Easy Avenue to complete the assessment, and he needs to pass by the food pantry to donate cans and dry goods. All right, Jim needs a payment plan for his bill. He will call the billing department after he finishes reading chapter 2. If he gets a plan, he will have more time to pay. Jim applied for assistance last week. He did not qualify for assistance. Jimmy Jr. needs to exchange his laptop for his online classes. So Jimmy Jr. and Jim go to Big Easy Middle School. After the teacher fills in the paperwork, she will replace the damaged computer. Jim is broke. He is happy because the school will lend a laptop to any kid that needs one. Jimmy Jr. broke his glasses last week. Jimmy Jr. says he cannot see without them. His dad doesn't agree. If you can't see the board, you will not understand the lessons. Jimmy Jr. said, "Classes are online, Dad. I don't need to see the board." Jim frowned and said, "You are going to get new glasses." And then Dr. Johnson said, "Remember to watch out for eye strain. Too much time on screens will damage your retina." Jimmy Jr., after we finish here, I'm going to take you to Andre's house to play. Jim volunteers with Nola Newlight. Jim thinks that if he takes Jimmy Jr. with him, he will never have a chance of being hired by the organization. The family's house is beautiful. They want to change out all their old light bulbs for new ones. Before Jim gets to work, he will need to conduct an inventory throughout the house. The family will not need to pay for the light bulbs. Several philanthropists, some public grants, and volunteers support this community program. Finally, Jim has some extra cans of tuna. Jimmy will not eat them, so Jim is going to drop them off at the mini food pantry. After that, he will go in the chapel and say a prayer. In the early evenings, Jim and Jimmy Jr. go to the park. Usually they feed the geese and talk, but today Jim has a surprise. They will visit the sculpture garden. Jim is surprised when they reach the sculpture garden. Many people are there, so Jim and Jimmy Jr. will have to put on their mask. "I guess community will be different from now on," says Jim. "But tomorrow the errands must be done," right? So look over the slides. I hope you like the story. Look over the slides. There's questions to answer. The answers will pop in your deck. Cover those up. And then use this story and these images to write and talk about how the weather will affect your plans, or how the pandemic affects your plans, or just what you plan to do. If something happens, then you'll be able to do what? If this, then that sort of sentences. All right, that's all we have for this week. Enjoy your conversation. See you in class next time. And as a reminder, make sure to talk to your teachers, because we are entering intersession and it is a not regular class time after this